Okay, here I have a piece that's, you can see it on the left side. That's pretty much complete with the relief carving. It has three layers, some small little details here and there, but they're again carved with my small music wire loop tools, a few other tools for larger surface areas. The top two layers are fairly similar. The bottom layer is similar, but has a few little different details on it. You can see some sketch marks in the upper band there that I have laid out, the small circle and a few little sketch lines on there. And that's just basically a sketch for the pattern that'll be relief carved. So here I am using a tool just to leave a little radius curve on it at each spot there where the two lines would intersect. There'll be a little radius curve. Now I'm starting to take away some of the stain area there with a larger tool. And that's what it looks like in that top band on the left. Pretty much when it's completed. It may need a little bit of cleanup along some of the edges there. That's pretty much a completed relief carve pattern. On the right side, you can see that pattern repeated again in the center, very similar to the one on the top. It's a little larger, a little longer because it's on a larger radius, but other than that, it's very similar. Here, the piece on the left is upside down. I'm getting ready to add a pattern to the base ring of that. The bottom of the pot on that in that view is not cleaned up yet. There'll be a little footing that I'll take the piece over to my Pacific wheel, flip it upside down, and as you can see in the view right there, I'll leave a little raised ring on the bottom for the footing on the bowl so that it will sit there and it won't rock. And it's cleaned up nice and smooth with no burrs. I usually let the pieces sit on the bat till they pop loose. This is countertop material, so when they shrink to a certain level, they just break loose and it leaves me a smooth surface. I clean it up and recess the middle so it doesn't rock, and then usually it has a clean base on it. So I don't usually cut them loose with a wire. I've done it before if I'm getting rid of a piece, but I don't usually use the wire to cut the pieces away from the bats. I usually let them shrink a little bit, and then they pop loose on a smooth countertop material. Here I'm using my music wire tool. That's a paintbrush handle that I'm holding on to, an old paintbrush, and I just bend music wire to fit whatever radius loop I want. So in this case, it's a pretty small one. And after a little bit of experience, I just know how long to make the wire, and how much to bend them and little things like that. Just kind of learn that as you go along. Here I'm using a larger tool just to clean up some of that interior surface relief carved area. There's usually about three stages of this. I'll do the rough draft on it first, sort of like you can see with a few pieces of stain left on it. Then I'll go in with a second draft on it and clean up some of the areas. And then with a smaller tool, I'll come in and clean it up all that much more. So as you see it on the right, some of those little colored areas there. In this view here, you can see the stain's been pretty much removed, and I'm just dusting it off, cleaning it up here a little bit. And on the right side, you can see most of the stain in the relief areas is taken out. So they're not little islands of stain floating in the middle here and there. So that's this piece is almost complete here. This clay is a cone 5 clay. It's commercial clay I buy in Albuquerque, and it's worked really well for throwing the pieces. And it doesn't have a super large grog in it, which makes carving really easy with these small magic little music wire tools. And so I've used it quite a bit. It'll turn sort of a medium tan when it's fired in an electric kiln, a little over cone 5. And the stain itself is sort of a satin black. So there's a nice offset in the color between the two surfaces. It looks a lot different than it does when it's leather hard, as you see in the screen right here. That Lockerbie wheel you saw on the right is where I do the carving at. The pieces again are thrown on one of my Pacifica wheels, and the footings are carved on another Pacifica wheel. I use an old Griffin grip tool to clean up the base of the parts. So here it's just rotating. It's pretty much done. Here's in kind of slow motion. You can see the surfaces. They've been pretty much cleaned up. Now, the one thing nice about it, when it does shrink a little bit, it tightens up some of the edges a little bit, so it looks a little more detailed than it does in here, which to me I like. So, but it'll give me a nice contrast between the stain and the tan. These are kind of earthy looking pieces. They're not They're of course not kitchenware or dinnerware or anything like that. They're mostly just decorative pieces for the household. And I like the kind of like the geometric patterns. I do a lot of those, but I'll be doing a few other things in the future. So anyway, I enjoyed making this piece. And if anybody has any questions, just let me know. Thank you.